Today's lecture is, like many of the others, it's quite difficult to fit into the actual sort of category. And we're finding in IEDE that we're covering this sort of multidisciplinary area, which is perhaps between health, human well-being, productivity, energy use and climate change. I started putting in the numbers earlier, and I'm not 100% sure that they're exactly right, but we're a small section of the School of Environment, Energy and Resources within the Bartlett Faculty of the Built Environment. A little over a year ago, I was at a meeting with a couple of other academics, Stegemann and Teresa, Domenech, and we were meeting with Ellen MacArthur Foundation about a different project. And it occurred to us that it would be a good idea to gather all of the circular economy activity that was going on in UCL that we knew about into something that we called Circular Economy Laboratory, which we were thinking would be a way to get space in the proposed UCL East development, which is a big expansion of UCL towards in the Stratford Olympic Park. And we put a proposal in and we are still waiting about it. But meanwhile, it occurred to us that we could just get on with it anyway, and we didn't have to wait for UCL East to open. And in the process of setting this laboratory up, we found lots of other people, some of whom we knew were probably doing circular economy stuff, and some of whom are not necessarily doing circular economy stuff but could be relevant. And we found that the idea of the Circular Economy Lab was very popular, and we got more and more people saying, hey, that's a really good idea, rather than, what are you doing, that's a stupid idea, stop it, do something else. And so we've been continuing, and in that year, or in the year that's passed, we've actually been doing quite a lot of bits and pieces, really. So a little bit of undergraduate, postgraduate education, we've done a couple of CPD courses as well. I put on a link to the Engineering Exchange, which is something that the engineering faculty are doing, sort of swapping or putting engineering knowledge into the community. And I think that's something that we're looking at doing as well. One of the things we were thinking about with the circular economy is that there are some barriers to its progress that may not be obvious. There may be little tiny barriers, or at least they seem to be little tiny barriers, but could be answered by some expertise within UCL. One of the ideas that stuck in my head is that paper is quite difficult to recycle unless you can take the ink off the paper. So that kind of issue about how you take ink off paper isn't necessarily a circular economy type of activity, but it could really help the circular economy. And today someone was suggesting to me taking cement off bricks is a particularly difficult and annoying problem, and bricks themselves are quite expensive. And so there's a project to how you take cement off bricks to make the bricks reused. And you can think of lots of those kind of issues which are, could fit some of UCL's expertise, and we're acting as a kind of conduit for people who are interested in trying to make their businesses more circular, their activities more circular. So we've had some projects and proposed projects which some of them are already active, some of them are things that we are working on at the moment. The Sino-European Circular Economy and Resource Efficiency project has been going for probably 6 months or something like that. And that's a pretty big European project led by Raymond, who isn't here. It's part of the Institute for Sustainable Resources with Paul Eakins, who is here. And one of the things that I've been seeing is that the three main or the most lively three of the people who have been linked to this are Julia Stegemann, who's representing the engineering faculty. I'm representing the sort of built environment in general, and we've had Teresa, who's representing the Institute for Sustainable Resources, and a bit more on the economics and policy side. So between us, we're covering a reasonable range of some of the activities that go on in the circular economy. but by no means all of what goes on in UCL. And we're hoping that we can continue this and keep on dragging in different projects. So we put in a few bids. There's a new Circular Cities initiative which Joanna Williams, who has been setting up in the planning department upstairs. And so there's quite a lot going on in terms of research. We've also got quite a few bits of teaching that are already happening in some way or other. So the new MSc in Sustainable Resources will start in September of this year. The Environmental Design and Engineering course covers some issues, which has been running for many years. In the engineering faculty, Environmental Systems Engineering covers some issues. We've done the CPD, the life cycle assessment, and on basic introduction to the circular economy, and waste and resource efficiency as well. And we've been talking about setting up a new MSc in circular economy as well. So these are sort of proposed issues. So we've got a web page. It's not terribly brilliantly done at the moment. At some point it will be improved massively. But if anyone wants to have a look at it, it is there, and you can contact me via that one. And I think what I'd like to do now is introduce Eric, who came to us partly via the Circular Economy Lab, really. So via the things we've been doing at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, we are a pioneer university promoting circular economy with Ellen MacArthur. And that gives us some invites to some of the events she's been doing. And one of Julia Stegemann's students met Eric probably 6 months ago, I guess. And Eric was sent to us in the Built Environment Department. And I was very interested in what he was talking about. And I've since met him a couple more times and seen a couple more events with him. And I'm still very interested in it. And I think it's a fascinating idea. And I can see plenty of possible expansions for it. And I think hopefully you will as well. So with that, I'd like to welcome Eric. And hopefully I'll get to change over to his talk without,
I hope so as well.
Without too much mucking around. I can work out which one it is. I'll shut my windows actually. Yeah, all ready to go. Here we go.
Thank you.
Over to you, Eric.
Thank you. Yes, my name is Eric Logtens, and my background is completely different than what everything about what Ben was talking about. Actually, I come originally like an exercise and physiotherapist, specialized into ergonomics, and then in that I went into behavioral change. Behavioral change of individuals, groups of people, masses of people. And I started a consultancy firm on the ergonomics. And basically what happened is that on product design, the user-friendliness was more and more became important. And this was a product which was designed in 2002, 2003, where I was involved, and my input should be on what will the lever of the chair do and how is that anticipated by the user. But there was something really annoying. I went to this design team in Berlin, and there was something they called the cradle-to-cradle design protocol, which at that point I had never heard about. But it intrigued me, and I learned from to look at materials, substances in a completely different way. So then this furniture manufacturer asked me to develop a traditional sub-distribution channel, where our task was to find new routes to market, new USPs, and new distribution models. But at the end of the day, we still were having traditional dealerships, resellers, we still had traditional interior design, we did the training you need for salespeople, we put the logistical in place, and at the end of the day, we had this cradle-to-cradle new product design, but it still was a linear model. It was take, make, and waste. Why waste? I never saw any of these products back. So we've got all these materials, all this design, everything is thought through, but I didn't see the loop being closed. And then everyone, I think, has got to have a defining moment, because working with these designers and learning about materials and what is in there, I just had my first born son, and as a father you're not too involved in that whole process during the 9 months. So the only thing you can do is to make sure that the nursery room is completely well fitted out and done everything. That's actually the only thing about it. And because I was in this design team, I learned that with all this new furniture I built, and which I bought and painted or whatsoever, is that there was formaldehyde in it, and that there was phenol glues used, and that basically I put my firstborn child into this nursery room where there is an atmosphere, a climate where it immediately starts mutating his DNA and it's carcinogen. I thought, well, this is crazy. This can't be happening anymore. So I had to do something about it. And in this whole model, there's something else happened as well, and that is that the product we sold had proved to have a huge, way more higher residual value than any other competitive product at the same price quality ratio. So on an ordinary task chair for say 1,000 euros gross, after 3 months the residual value is 300 euros. After 3 years you have to pay 30 euros to get rid of it. And I saw via the internet, this is something called Marktplaats, a little Dutch version of eBay, that the residual value of our chairs was at more than 50% of the gross purchasing price. And that was interesting from a business perspective, because when that residual value is so much higher, why is it so high? And when you've got a high residual value, then you also can start thinking about a second or a third user cycle. So basically somewhere around that time I stopped using the word life cycle. I started talking and thinking and user cycles and see what I could do with that. And in this whole industry, and I'm now talking about the material side of the building, there were a couple of challenges. And when there are challenges, you have to find solutions. So basically, everyone was involved, and 2000, the crisis was coming, minimize office furniture waste. But what is then the solution? The solution to minimize office furniture waste is actually these multiple user cycles. Make a refurbish outside. Then everyone was in the phase of creating flexible workspaces. We want to be in more different areas, we want to focus working and so on. But when you create flexible workplaces, you create also different programs of demands and wishes to what this workplace should offer. So your furnishings should be future-proof. It should be extendable. And everyone was about, of course, about doing the right thing, corporate, sustainable, responsibility. But doing the right thing actually is that you make sure that you design for abundance, that you make sure that it's got different applications, that people are happy to use it. And in the old model, it was about reduced total cost of ownership. And what I found is that you need to transform that into what I call earning by usership. So the total cost of ownership should transform into earning by usership. Instead of owning it, you use what you need. So I started doing a couple of pilot projects, you could say. And in these pilot projects, we said we're not going to sell you a chair anymore, we're going to provide you the service of comfortable seating. And we did private-public collaborations, partnerships with governmental institutes, like this is a province, like your county, where we said, okay, we own the furnishings, we fit them out, we take care of them, you own a building, you facilitate, and together we work, and when there's a revenue, we share it on the same basis of investment. But then I was doing this with my own little saved money. Then a pension fund came, a retirement fund, and they said, well, that's a good plan. I want to have this 1,500 times a chair of €1,000, and then it goes quickly. But basically, with this, what we grew by the year 2010 is that we built the first circular office furniture business model, and we launched that into the Netherlands. So this is not a company, we didn't sell anything anymore. They only provided the service. But when you want to sell something, it's also important that that you've got your core values. So basically, when it's an ugly chair, when it's an ugly place to work, no one wants it. So it has to be of top-notch design. It has to be friendly and so on. When you can say my product is circular or renewable or whatsoever, but your whole business model needs to be. Your total supply chain needs to be. The way your staff behaves needs to be as well. And at the end of the day, when you're not affordable, when you're not at the same price or range or level as whatever the other competitor is in the old economy, then you don't have a chance, you don't stand a chance to really break through and make it big. You have to be on comparable price levels. But the big thing is, it's loyal. It's loyalty. Because instead of saying thank you for the order and I'll see you back in 7 years' time and trying to win you all over again as a client, you now enter what I call continuous customer involvement. So you enter into a long-term, intensive relationship instead of being a buyer-sales relationship. And when you want to do this on furnishing, then the customer needs to be carefree, because that's what you really sell. People are not worried about anymore when there's a coffee stain in the seat. It's not the worry anymore about when you've got an internal movement. It's about the fact that you don't have to have any facility managers who have to take care of the product and refurbish it and so on. The customer needs to be carefree. So we launched this business model that was actually quite successful. I think in 2 years' time we did more than 50,000 workplaces or so, and that was way before this really hit the market. And but I also was left with some questions, and I found myself in a certain moment of time. I found myself at Daniel Core, who is the designer of the first critical office furniture system. This thing he sends. And the question was, how do I keep my materials in the endless loops? And Michael Brownlow was there as well, and I asked him, what about the tabletop? Because the tabletop was still made by particle board, and it was still that they had an old laminate or melamine on it, and I didn't know what glue was used. And the tabletop, when I get that one back, it's up for incineration. But in my service model, the first client wants a rectangular top, the second one wants a round table, the third one wants to have a triangle. So how do I keep this in an endless loop? And then I found myself on an event in New York, and I was awarded a little prize, and another guy was awarded a little prize, and he had this new thing, ECOR, that started to intrigue me. And ECOR, that's what I decided about a year ago to join. So basically, what is it? You can all read this, but at the end of the day, what we do is we take a fiber, a cellulose fiber, any fiber from cellulose. We put it in the blender, we make soup out of it, we store that soup during a certain amount of time in a certain container at a certain temperature, then we flush it on an oven plate, and then we put it into a press. We only use steam and warmth, heat, energy, and then we press it on the plate. So here we've got ECOR. And ECOR, this is made out of old drinking packages, and like Tetra Pak. And basically this came this. So someone once called ECOR being like paper on steroids. So you can see that this panel you can simply give it through. But when you've got this as a basic, as a panel, it still isn't anything really. You need to be able to do stuff with this. So we started printing. You can print on this. And when you go into what can I do with this is still a laminate. But what is the laminate? So now it looks like something you've always seen, and now it's an introduction. But you need to be able to make structures out of it. And these structures, I'll simply go through. Or you bend them. Or you place a cargo on them. But so we use different fibers, and these fibers we divide it into urban, farm, and forest fibers. And again, the only thing we use is water, pressure, and heat. So urban fibers, you can think of discarded office paper, old corrugated cardboard, jeans, coffee grounds, anyway. And on farm fibers, you can think of corn, beeswax, kenaf, and forest fibers is quite obviously sawdust and so on. So on these fibers, these are the ECOR I just sent into the room. It's all the standard ECOR. That's where we manufacture from, and we started with that in about 2014. But then you need to look and see what you can do with your providers of waste stream. So basically, here is ECOR made out of old baseball bats. I've got, I should have put on my glasses, brew malt. Yeah? And this one is 50% coconut, 50% old newspaper. And now I'm coming into something different. Because you feel that ECOR blend you had in your hand will have specific dimensions. It's really funny, always someone sniffs on it. We've got a beautiful one with lavender. After 3 months you can still smell the lavender. And so the panel only doesn't give you anything. You have to be structured. And you think structured with the samples you've got in the room now. You can also imagine that you can make this bigger. I've got it at 8 centimeters. You've got a partition wall system. And but then we started fumbling with it, and we started, for example, laser cutting it. And this is still the old drinking cartonnage and drinking package. This is still the old sawdust and forest. But you see that this is the old office paper, whereby the right combination of pressure, you can have cellulose fibers changing into completely different stuff. But how do you position this? And where I come from, and where I live, how are you going to make this into a real disruptive change? How are we going to change it? So I decided on that I wanted to build a community. I want to build a community of designers. And a designer can be a product designer, can be well-known international name and fame, can be a student which is 22 years old, just coming out of school. But when you only got designers, what you also need is a community of craftsmen. People who don't discuss too much, they simply put balls in it, they start sewing with it, they glue it together, they laser it together, and so on. But you need an open source where they can come together and where they can communicate about their learnings. And I need people who come to me saying, well, this doesn't work, this is rubbish, this is bullshit, but then go out and find a solution together. So to also go more into the environment and the context where we're in here, it creates customers of all kinds. Because when I can take a flat one-dimensional panel and laser cut it in a simple way, and I can make these shapes, and suddenly you've got a material which enables designers to think outside of the box. That's how I perceive it. So I got some examples of this. This is a simple, everyday use commodity thing. Folio fiber. But when a student comes in, and actually this one was 24, she designed this kind of laser cut, and suddenly I've got a monomaterialization of something where normally there's a clip in it, and when it's monomaterial, I can take this back, I can put it back into the blender, I reconvert it into a panel, and I can make something new, the same, or something else out of it, because the integrity of the material has been kept. Then you've got design for assembly, disassembly. This is from 2 guys in a shed in the neighborhood of Amsterdam. They made this out of MDF. And basically by using the specific dimensions, you get this in a little flatbed box at the same price of every lamp. And suddenly you've got something which is Creative Commons certified, which is a healthy material. I like this particularly. This doesn't fall in the category of good design. It's extremely ugly. But I like the way they were thinking. The way they were thinking was, okay, I go on a holiday, I go to the mountains, I go to the lakes, I go hiking or go biking or whatever you do. And then I go lying in this little white cocoon at the end of the day where there are so many VOCs that it's really irresponsible to stay there. So no VOCs, bring a healthy sleep, that was their slogan. And they built this trailer and launched it at a show about 4 or 5 months ago. It was the only not white one on the show from trailers. And they're manufacturing them, they're on the road, all made out of ECOR. Now, a little bit more of the business model and the opportunities. Get some thinking. Because what will happen in a normal supermarket every week, year in, year out? I've got a manufacturer, or I've got a brand, I've got a demand pool company, which basically says, okay, we've got 3 different qualities of butter. And the first week we've got butter for older people who want to stay vital. The second week we've got butter for people who want to have a healthy young family. And the third week we've got budget butter. And every week, one of these butters needs to be promoted within the supermarkets. So every week they will bring in a display, a point of purchase display. What happens at the end of the week, then at the supermarket, then this display from week 1 will be thrown in the container, and on Monday the next display comes in. And over again. In every supermarket. We've got something like M&S or so. We've got something called Adelheim. Whole Foods is the pilot way. What can we do? By making this display out of ECOR, because the material is coming in already, we can also have the reverse logistics. We reconvert this into a panel, we press this panel, and the material from the display in week 1 becomes the material of this display in week 3. So suddenly, Unilever doesn't have to buy raw materials week in, week out again, so it's a win for them. The supermarket doesn't have to pay anymore to get rid of the waste all these different manufacturers drag into their places, so they got a win as well. And we love it as well because we turn it into a service in the model, and we can upcycle it over and over again. Okay, so we've got all these forms. We've got all these forms, we've got all these shapes. This is our laser cutter doing a thing for a designer, and you can think in structures because suddenly you can see that this could be a tabletop or part of a vertical wall system. You can see that you can make out of cellulose waste fibers shapes and forms which you can put in different places into your business. And some pilot project from here and more in the building environment. This is with the designer Jacob Lejongier, who used ECOR-like inside, making acoustical panels out of it. This is in Milan. This company you'll know, but all the furnishings and the thing you see is made out of ECOR. This is a project I did last year. These are ceiling tiles, but as you can see they're in a curved shape, and there's a hidden structure. So suddenly no one will see or reckon this is ECOR. But this was from a specific which comes somewhere else. This is some wall finishing material, and these are some designs. This you can simply buy in stores, but all made out of waste. Yeah, the healthiest hair salon possible. This is an entrepreneur. Basically, this is not a normal hair salon. They only treat people with status after chemotherapy. And this entrepreneur, she said, I want to have the healthiest hair salon because these people have been through great suffering, so I don't want all these VOCs in my job. And you see here that actually what we did is it looks like a traditional furnishing here. It's laminate on it and so on. This was done by a designer, but at the time that we came in, actually the company Noble Benelux, it didn't even exist. We only exist for 12 months commercially. And the whole design is already done. So this I would call like ECOR inside. But in regards to the integrity of the material, I don't know anything about this veneer. I don't know anything about the glue. So basically we could detach it. It's not really at the end. But now this designer learned to work with this material. And now we started to think on what are the possibilities and the dimensions. And you just add this in your hand. So we developed it into a chair. And here is not sustainability is not an issue here at all. The only issue is weight. This will be used in leisure, and we're 50% less in weight than what you normally would need in materials of NDF and particle. So then suddenly Suddenly, you see this chair which is just on development, is hidden here. It became a product. It is sold. This is what we don't control. This is how it will find its route to market. But in the same exhibition of the Dutch Expo, all these multimedia screens you display, it is all ECOR. The exhibition didn't buy it. We provide them the service of the material. In 18 months we'll take it back. We make sure that the sticker which is used here is easy detachable, and we use the raw material, and we found a way with the customer for the next application of this material. Vision and ambition. The founder, Robert Noble, drew this about 9 years ago. And now with the refugee problems we suffer, this is what we do now with the Red Cross. And it's a mock-up and it's about to be deployed. There's everything in it, the shower also, which I think is really good. So, instead of the demand pool, how do I create a vision for CircEL? First, as a company, we established a community of designers and craftsmen. That's what I need to facilitate, that's what I need to create. And I need to identify experts and partners. That's what drew me to UCL. And then you need to establish an R&D and prototyping center. And basically, that R&D and prototyping center should facilitate the designers, the experts, these partners, these providers of residue streams, where you can co-create, where you can mix them in. But we can mix a lot of stuff. So, to give an idea, here is rice straw after the harvest. We've got wheat straw with OCC. They are silicate in, so you get different dimensions on what you can expect from the material from fire retardant, for example. I can't read it anymore, someone else should read it. Wheat straw and old newspaper. Corn husk, after the harvest of course, because we won't plant them. But this is more interesting, perhaps. This is jeans. This is all jeans. This is synthetic leather. This is natural leather. This is something which we scrapped as a mixture from the floor from a large retailer. This is a product which will now be, which is sold in the UK now. This is coffee grounds. So out of coffee grounds, out of the office, and the old paper, we take that, blend it into a panel, and these are going to be tabletops in a canteen. Okay, more stuff. But when you've got all these different waste streams, you need to create a facility where someone can come together, where you can co-create on that specific blend. Because when I want to make a partitioning wall, I've got a totally different program of demands than when I want to make a ball, of course. So you develop these ECOR blending solutions. Then you design the products, facilitate the development of the multi-stakeholder, regional, closed-loop cycles. Makes no sense to take rice plants halfway across the world to make a panel in Europe. And then of course scale up the local production facilities. So actually we are all about, in that circle one, it's about co-creation I believe, it's about cooperation and it's about co-responsibility. That's it. And I only recently found out that when you put an E in front of it, that's ECOR. And the products need to be designed for refurbishment, disassembly and reutilization of these raw materials. We're not talking about life cycles anymore, we're talking about use cycles. And what I said earlier to you, thank you for the all to continue structural involvement. And you have to then, when you put it into a service, you have to have a transformation of cost of ownership. If it's only a week on a display, imagine the total cost of ownership of that display into earning by usership. And also in this one, what I'm working on with a couple of people is that the buildings where you use these materials could actually become material banks. When you know and identify these materials and you know where you place them, then also it's easier to extract and contract. But this is when you're talking over a 40-year period of time and something else in a display for a week. Okay, so this is a little bit visualized. You take stuff, you put it into a factory, and that goes into the market. Someone does something to it. They can have business to business, business to consumer, and then the material can come back into a factory or a feeder. Yeah? So the plan we've got today, what we need from an ELF, is very simple. We need water, we need heat, energy, and we need waste. And that waste can be urban, farm, or forest. And our business strategy is following. The way it looks now today is that the R&D and prototyping facility will be landed here in the Netherlands, and that is to facilitate Northwest Europe. Then we're hoping it's going to be here in the UK, and a long way down the road. This one will be in what we call the valley, CircEL Valley. Some people have been here, have been there. It's in the Schiphol area, and the Schiphol will do a huge pilot project. This is with the company where we combined to make this a light core, what I showed you before. That is when you put in a paper honeycomb, not made out of corrugated cardboard in it. Wij zijn Terron, waste disposal company and water reserves agency. I'm hoping London. Domenech. This is with a specific large non-profitable organization, and then that's what our aim is. That's the business model. We catalyze different local, small, clean manufacturing systems where you convert waste which is available. About circular economy and the little thing which I can't leave behind. I think circular economy in essence requires a different awareness and a behavioral change. That's why we also use to think outside of the box. And when you want to change, and when you make it extremely simple, and you want to have behavioral change, you first need to know. Then you need to want. You need to want to make this decision. Then you need to be able. And that's where I see ECOR. That's what attracted me to this. Because we see us, I think ECOR is one of the biggest enablers of others to achieve their circular ambitions. But then we start to do. That's where you facilitate. That's where you all are also coming in. And then the beauty of it is you need to persist and then apply it yourself into multiple regions, multiple stakeholders, multiple disciplines, multiple industries. And I think there's also a little threat. I believe over here in the UK, circular economy is predominantly spoken of in this part of the fractal triangle. It's about the economy, the efficiency, living, wages. I think the major law, pollution, eco-effect should be included in that as well, and at least also social fairness. Because you can imagine, and we can take the textile mountain Europe has been sending to Africa to convert that back into panels, that there needs to be a social return locally over there. So, to close, a lot of people always talk about people, profit, planet, and it makes them up on purpose. Then it's about equity, economy, and ecology. And everyone agrees on that we need to be conscious with our system Earth. But at the end of the day, the only ecological system, the only ecological thing is a planet, and that is our Earth, and that is our cradle. That's where we all come from. And there can no be a sustainable economical system without profit. And to my opinion, when you keep on using finite resources, only the circular economy can be a real solution for a long-time perspective. We always say that people are the biggest equity within a company and our organization, and we need to be really conscious about it. And I think here is a real challenge. So everyone needs this or else to find a moment, and we'd like to know over the wine what your defining moment was. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. That's really an inspiring talk. It's even better than what I heard last time.
I learned from you in the meantime.
No, I doubt it. I don't know if anyone's got any questions immediately, or whether it's all too much to take in all at once.
I just wondered about locating your planet.
Yeah.
Are you better off out in the country or near to urban areas where there's a lot of stuff but it's unsorted? Or
Now, at the end of the day, I'm not the technical guy of company, but at the end of the day, the largest sound we make is the saw thing. when you cut it.
On saw, not circular.
Yeah, circular, that's the largest sampling. We take 220 volts, which is quite available as well. We prefer renewable energy resources, and we live off the natural gas, for example. So I think what's much more important is that you've got different stakeholders at place. Yeah, so I'm now working on a project where the provider of the waste stream, which we will convert into ECOR, which we then, in collaboration with the fabricator, will be made for products for his use. So he's not going to buy external materials again, we keep it in his closed loop cycle and we reconvert it. So in that specific case, that ELF, the ECOR Living Factory, would be at the site of this commercial organization. The other way is that when you collect urban waste, it's very obvious we'll put it in an urban environment, and when it's forest waste, we put it in an environment near there. What we need to find out is, when I make this out of Tetra Pak is everywhere. Office paper is everywhere. And it doesn't make sense to have every 100 kilometers another conversion technology of Tetra Pak approach. That's what we need to find out.
So you're working with recycling businesses?
No, not necessarily.
One of the ideas I was really attracted to is thinking about UCL East, which is going to be a new building in Stratford. UCL itself pays something around £70 or £80 a tonne to have its waste removed from the site here. So you're already seeing, you're thinking, right, okay, UCL uses, normally there'd be loads of foam boards in here with posters on it. And I was a little bit surprised not to see them in here, but we buy loads of foam board, we print stuff onto it, and you think, well, that could be done better. And if we were using our own waste to make this foam board, that saves money both sides. So I think that you can see it's a good idea. Whether it's possible to stick it into UCL East or UCL is a different matter, but certainly those kind of organisations where we, as UCL, generate a huge amount of waste every day, you can see that as a possibility.
Have you shared that thinking with the developer of the area?
I've been talking with someone about it this very morning, whether there are enough people to talk to who were involved in the decisions, whether you can get the right people to really buy into it. I don't know, it'd be nice to think it's possible. Go on first.
Yeah, very interesting. I do quite a bit of work on resource efficiency myself, academically, and the key problem that I come across, I'm an economist by background, is that the resource efficiency world, and the CircEL stuff seems to be pretty resource efficient, doesn't operate according to the same rules as economic efficiency, and therefore, by and large, it's not economically viable.
Exactly.
And I'm interested, therefore, as you can imagine, in the costs of this stuff and what kind of economic viability is compared to these other materials that emit volatile organic compounds, and how that looks as if it might work out, because we've obviously got lots of very ambitious plans. It's fascinating with that map of Europe, but those guys will have to make a profit if they're going to happen, unless you can get sources of subsidy from somewhere. So just talk a little bit about that.
No subsidy, but actually these are 4 questions. Let me first touch down on the economical viability. And when I would be in a spot or a place that I only could take Tetra Pak, suddenly I'm depending from Tetra Pak as a waste stream for my ECOR specific blend. And you've seen a lot of different activities still around, and very good at that, but they're depending on one specific waste stream. I think one of the beauties of ECOR is that we can change per half a day on the waste stream we've got. So therefore, volatility of resource pricing, we could less risk, how you say it,
Vulnerable.
vulnerable to that. Then, like in the example of Ben, over here people are used to pay for their waste. Where you pay here 80 pounds per ton, in the US it's only $8 per ton. So basically that economical advantage isn't there on that spot. At the same time, the transportation of waste over there is a way longer distances as well. So I think it will always be a multi-stakeholder plan. Perhaps it's best done by giving an example, which we're now piloting. In the Netherlands we live underneath the sea level. So when the water reservoirs, when they are sleeping for a day, that's a problem for more than 5 million people, and the pumps need to be going. So these water reservoirs, we've got to break power and control on what's happening to land and what's happening. And then comes in the sewage water. Now with a waste stream management company, we are capable of filtering the fibers from toilet paper out of the sewage water. That we can, that they can change into PHA, like a polyethylene biodegradable plastic. That's not correct. And we can take the fibers and we can make a panel out of it. That filter is going already. That system is already in place. The economical part of that is already done. And from the economical perspective, perhaps I then answer the question. When you take this filing folder, for example, from the input of waste, we paid for this waste. This is Tetra Pak actually. By making this design, this was about 20 cents of waste. And then you put labor in it, and we are about 50, 60 cents or so. But with the design and make it a monomaterial, suddenly becomes a commodity. This is normally sold also here in the UK for 2-3 euros. And now suddenly I can personalize it by laser cutting it. So this will have a market value at 6, 7, 8 euros. So you take these 20 cents and upcycle them in 8 euros. When I would do this and continue to do this in only Berlin, and I would sell it into Glasgow, the impact from a logistic cost to get it there makes the whole model crap. So you need to be local upcycling. I don't know if I really answered your question.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting a full business economic model, but that's fine.
Okay. Yes.
Other question. So industry might be different news cycles. How do you stop like contaminants getting into the actual ECOR itself? Or if you are, how do you deal with it?
Spot on. Must I stop? This is a critical certifiable dye stuff. So this panel is now through and through blue. It took us 4 weeks. I can extract the dye from the original ECOR again. When I give you this for your use, and you give this back to me, I know what the substance is. I know what it's controlled of. Somewhere there was a sample with a melamine on it. That one is a goner. That can only stay in what we call it, what everyone calls a technological cycle. And someone prints on it, like the parrots I believe I gave away, this little rust. When I don't know what the ink is, what the quality of the ink is, then that's a difficulty to take it back. But when I'm in a multi-party position, like a supermarket, the provider of the shampoo, and also converting this over and over again, then you go into this co-creation to find and use the right inks. Because actually most of the inks are quite good. That's what you need. When I simply sell to you a panel, you take it and you put E84 on it for fire retardancy, and it becomes as toxic as it can be. That's where you've got to check.
Oh, question. Then we go upstairs.
Question. A lot of people have these brilliant ideas, but then how did you actually make this company start? Because I mean, this is a company, it's not a profit organization. So how did it start there? Where did you get the money from to get this cycle going?
How do we get the money?
Well, in first place,
Always follow the money. That's very simple. We've done more than a decade R&D. So it took us more than 10 years to find a way to take up different cellulose streams and only use water, steam and pressure. That involves quite a lot of money. And I think that in this specific case there were a couple of very successful guys. You can look on the website on the board of directors who wanted to do one last trick. And they put in an awful lot of money. Now when you've got this technology, that still isn't anything. And then it's about timing and about upscalability. The upscalability question, that's why you need to be adaptive to multiple fiber resources, and that's why your manufacturing system needs to be really simple. And because the material on itself, the applications are everywhere. The screens, the partition walls, here on this tabletop, it's in this seat, there the stand-up. The material is everywhere which you could replace. It's not so much a question about the market, as long as you do affordable, circular, design. Huh? Loyalty. Yeah. So commercial startup, but myself, I started in the Benelux. I'm responsible for the larger part of Europe. We grew from a couple of 100,000 to more than 5-6 million in 12 months time. Quotation factory, and now you're growing and closing. So the first one we had was 1 hour.
Find someone with lots of money and
No. I think you need to find passion.
and both.
And some money for research and development, perhaps.
Yeah.
To get started.
Eric is definitely going to be around for drinks and snacks, which will be upstairs in 30 seconds time. So hopefully you can all come in and join us for that. But thanks again, Eric.